Meanwhile, we are fast approaching the 2-year anniversary of the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq. The U.S. was said to have left a more stable and secure Iraq with a government that represents the people and a military force capable of handling security threats. However, the country is still plagued by violence on a near daily basis, with suicide and car bombings. The video that you are looking at is the aftermath of one such attack that happened in Baghdad on Thursday. At least 61 people were killed while celebrating the religious holiday of Eid al-Adha, or the Feast of Sacrifice. And it is hardly an isolated incident. Take a look at this. These are just a few of the headlines from the past 2 weeks of attacks that have happened in the country. Policemen and government officials have been targeted. Children and women have been killed, and these attacks have made many public spaces potentially deadly. The Iraq Body Count Monitoring Group says that more than 7,000 people have been killed by militant attacks in Iraq this year alone. However, these stories are not likely to be read in U.S. newspapers. They're likely not in our coverage. Why is that? Is it perhaps now that the American troops are out of harm's way that we are ready to wash our hands of the Iraq quagmire? To discuss the latest onslaught of violence plaguing the country, I'm joined now by Saeed Erekat, political correspondent and political analyst for Al-Quds. Saeed, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
What is the current situation in Iraq these days? Obviously, we are seeing these headlines that look terrible. Is this a good example of what's going on in the country?
Indeed. I mean, I get calls from my former colleagues all the time. I was the United Nations spokesman in Iraq for 5 years between 2005 and 2010. And I tell you, the situation in Iraq today is as bad as it was at the height of the civil war in 2006 and 2007. So it is very bad, and there are a number of reasons as to why it is bad. You know, it's in terms of inability of the Americans to really train an effective Iraqi force, the fact that it was hastily founded on sectarian basis and so on, with loyalties to the tribe or to the sect, to the ethnic background and so on, non-professional. And lately, of course, in the last couple of years, is really the upsurge of violence in Syria, because there is a tremendous deal of connection between Syria and Iraq, especially with the Islamic state of Iraq and Bilad Sham, which is Iraq and Syria.
So is there, other than Syria, or is Syria the main cause for this uptick in violence that we are seeing in the country right now?
Well, I think it's both. You know, Syria definitely played a catalyst. You know, you have to remember that during the surge of 2007, 2008, and 2009, when the U.S. went in, you know, with a lot of forces and so on, and stamped out this violence or that terror, as they called it, they were able to bring some sort of calm into the country. But in the aftermath of the departure of U.S. forces and basically the absence of any air assets in Iraq, Iraq has no combat helicopters. It has no ability to strike from the sky above against formations of terrorist or Al-Qaeda types and so on. So they were able to reconstitute themselves. They're able to be funded now. There's a great deal of financing going on, and basically the same tribes that go across these elastic borders with Syria and Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Beni Shammar, for instance, form a great deal of the base for these terrorists, and they are, quite frankly, aided by the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. So we have seen the uptick in violence in Syria. We have seen the flow of money and arms and so on, and all this aided this violent situation.
Now, let me ask you, what about the Iraqi army? How are they doing? Are they equipped to handle this type of situation?
Well, the Iraqi army is basically was destroyed or was, dissolved back in 2003. That was a decision taken by the Bush administration at the time, and ever since then they have been trying to reconstitute the army. But so far, the sectarian aspect of the loyalties and the structure of the army has really taken its toll on having a professional army, so it is not that effective.
Now, while we are seeing these civilian casualties that are happening, as I said, on a near daily basis, most media outlets are not reporting about this. Instead, they're reporting about the Sparks Middle School shooting, which 2 people were killed. They're reporting about the Las Vegas casino shooting, which 3 people were killed. And just to be clear, I am not at all belittling those tragedies. They're tragic, they are horrible. But why aren't we seeing even 30 seconds of coverage of these daily blasts, these daily occurrences?
Because basically the American public is really war fatigued. It has been tired of wars. It does not want to be involved in these wars. They want to put the Iraq war behind. It was a miserable experiment as far as they are concerned. They feel that they are out of that quagmire and they don't want to get back into it again. It is really the responsibility of organizations, including media organizations, to refocus the spotlight on what's going on in Iraq. After all, it was the country, by and large, suffers from a situation as a result of the U.S. invasion.
And I cannot let you go, Saeed, without asking you, is there a way to move the country forward again? Obviously, barring another war, barring more troops going back in.
Well, I think that a real, genuine reconciliation effort, that if the U.S., let's say, takes on such an initiative and can find resonance among the Iraqi different political parties, I think there is that intent to reconcile, but you need to push for it.
Absolutely. Saeed Arikat, correspondent and political analyst for Al-Quds. Thank you so much for your opinions and for weighing in.
Thank you.